This week, we're recapping Nintendo's Indie World and Partner Direct. This is the Good Game, Bad Game podcast.
This is a song I wrote about the Good Game, Bad Game podcast. Good Game, Bad Game podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Good Game, Bad Game podcast. I'm your host, Spencer, and with me is a man whose birthday is tomorrow, but if you're listening to this, it's already too late, and you're a jerk for not wishing him a happy birthday. It's my co-host, Mike. Mike, happy birthday.
Boo to the people who didn't say happy birthday.
And I'm sure you're going to spend your birthday playing, all the video games and...
Oh boy, wouldn't that be nice?
No?
Maybe not. Maybe like during the week.
Okay. All right. Well,
not on my birthday day. Not even gonna play Star Wars Outlaws. Not gonna have a chance.
Damn.
Yeah. So I said damn.
Damn, that's crazy. So we're recording this literally one day after our last recording. So
and one day before my birthday.
And one day before your birthday. So I feel like because we're recapping a presentation at Direct, I feel like we can kind of just jump right on into it. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, ask me what I played yesterday.
Yeah, what did you play yesterday?
Boom, nothing. Let's get into it.
I guess okay, so the cards on the table for Nintendo, right, is that this was Indie World, so it was focusing on a bunch of indie titles that were going to be coming to the Nintendo Switch later this year and early next year, and then the Partner Direct, which was much of the same, right? Very funny to watch Nintendo announce up front. I saw they did it for the museum presentation that they had, and then they also had it for this Direct as well. They tweeted or subtweeted under the announcements that these events will not have any information regarding the Switch, the Switch 2, or the next Nintendo console, which was really funny watching them do what PlayStation and Xbox and Nintendo so often have to do, which is try and set expectations to the best of their ability, because people always come in with the loftiest of expectations. But I think with like putting that out there, like what the purpose of the event is, for me personally, I thought the event was really solid. It was a really solid 45 minutes of announcements, and I'm curious what you thought.
Yeah, I thought it was solid, and I had the eternal reminder that I can't possibly want to play Power Wash Simulator because I don't even want to power wash my own real life house.
Yeah, all right.
So, that's been lingering. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff here, on both sides of it. The immediate thing I want to call out is that I am super excited for Fitness Boxing 3.
Okay.
And it's just crazy that they came out with a Fitness Boxing 3 before they came out with a Fitness Boxing 1 and 2. And I'm just really excited to have one more fitness game on a Nintendo console that I'll never play.
Yeah. That definitely is the track record of the Nintendo fitness games. I loved that. I loved that during that trailer presentation, they were like, 4 trainers are returning, and I was like, no way, they got them to come back. And then they were like, with 2 new ones, and I was like, oh, that's great, building out the roster. And then it was like something like, you can even change their hairstyle. And I was like, what the fuck are we doing? For a fitness game?
I was really expecting them to announce that they were bringing on that one girl from Peloton that everyone loves, that I think has recently left Peloton.
Yeah, that would have been really funny.
Imagine hauling in that contract.
Yeah, that was really funny. The one thing that I noticed from the event was that there were a lot of things that were so the event was on Tuesday the 27th. Um so we're getting around to this a full week late technically if you're listening to it. But a lot of announcements were like releasing later today or, like um yeah, so just like a lot of like you're watching this thing, does it look cool? Well, guess what? You can play it later. And then the other thing was a lot of DLCs and on top of that, a lot of free DLCs, which are always like great to see.
Hmm.
So it was really cool to see a bunch of like those types of announcements too.
I was impressed to see that there was a Sea of Stars DLC.
I know, yeah,
Like,
I wasn't
didn't
expecting
really
that.
didn't really remind me of a type of game to get DLC. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, and I'm guessing it kind of works like a sort of like a post game type of um like what I mean, like how like think about like Pokemon, right? How Pokemon has like the story is go beat the Pokemon League, but then there's always stuff to do afterwards. I feel like that's kind of how the Sea of Stars DLC slots into all of it. Um,
Just go catch more stars.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Oh, so you've played it?
Yeah, yeah. Got to stay
um,
educated on these things.
um, yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to just run through, um, just kind of from the top with the indie world, and just kind of work our way through. Uh, the that Neva Wolf game that we've seen now a
Yep.
couple of times, I still feel like that looks super cool. It feels like that's going to be that feels like it's going to be a real hit. And I love the concept of like you have this like buddy animal, but like it's going to change throughout the game, which is cool.
I think this is out of all the games that were shown in both sides of the showcase, probably the game I'm most excited for.
Yeah. Yeah. I may I may agree with that.
Wow.
No, I do not agree with that. I do
You're
not
excited
agree
for
with that.
Coffee Talk Tokyo?
I am no. I'm excited for Peglin. And I wrote Peglin fucking slaps cuz it's literally Peggle, but a roguelike.
Yeah, yeah, that's exciting.
So that might be it's that and then also the Morsels game. That was giving me like Binding Light vibes. A little bit. So I'd want to see some more, but that was also uh a game that I'd say I'm pretty excited for. That, but then it would be Neva. So I know I immediately put two things above it.
That's fine. That's how deduction works. Um, I was trying to remember because they had Shovel Knight in here as well, and I thought I remember you being really into that game years ago.
I don't know if I've ever played Shovel Knight.
Really? For some reason, I've always associated you with that game.
It uh from what I know of the game, it definitely feels like a game that would be very much up my alley. But yeah, I don't think I've ever played it. I think I have it as goes the story with most
Yeah.
things. um let's see what else. Pico Park 2, right? That was like a shadow drop. It was going to be available later that day. Did you and Justine play the first?
Never heard of this game before.
Really? That feels like a you and Justine game.
Fuck us, I guess. I
Oh,
don't
okay.
know. All right,
No,
I'll
I
add it
just
to my list.
I feel like it has those like um co-op puzzly
Does it?
uh vibes, and then on top of that, you have to like work together to figure out how to like get keys and stuff like that, and it feels like something that now this is where you can attack me, but it feels like one of those games where Justine will absolutely need to pull you.
Need to pull me? Excuse me?
Yeah. I'm not gonna say it's full
Probably.
blown Donkey Kong
Probably.
Country or Super
Oh, if
Mario
it's even
World,
close.
but
If it's even close.
but but I don't know. There's something about how like you gotta like be extra thinky about how to maybe get to some things, and on top of that, by using platforming skills that I don't know. I think I'm gonna give the edge to Justine here.
Okay. All right.
Um, but I think what's so great, and I think what Nintendo does and has been doing so well. And maybe it's just because of where they slot themselves in so perfectly within the games industry, is that everything, once again, that was shown during the events are all games that just feel very Nintendo, right? They like feel very oriented and they feel right coming to a Nintendo console. And it's such like an interesting thing to say because I'm assuming most of these games. I mean, there were also was very surprised to hear that a lot of games were like console exclusives, and so likely won't be coming. Like Peglin, for example, is a Nintendo Switch timed exclusive. Sorry, not console exclusive. So it's a timed exclusive, which means it's only on the Switch for the time being. Until maybe like spring of 2025, it'll maybe come to the other consoles. So one, that was kind of surprising, but it's just such an interesting thing because a lot of these games will likely also be releasing on Xbox and PlayStation, but both of them are positioned as kind of like, well, everything comes to us. And so like, you're just like so inundated with games and stuff like that. Whereas it feels like the Switch has positioned itself nicely to not just have everything also on it, and also then like draw attention to games that are just very much just like they have the Switch feel to them. And so I think it's great that they really like take the time and effort during these types of events to try and showcase those, especially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can agree with that. Like it's funny. You kind of scroll through here, and there's like only two different color palettes. There's like things that you would see with Castlevania, and then like just the like I don't even know how you would explain it. My wife would call it like Polly Pocket colors.
Okay. All right. I think that sums it up adequately.
Sure.
Um
Or at least as poorly as it could. I don't live between 0 and 1.
I,
So
I like that you touched on Castlevania because again, very
uh-huh.
very Nintendo. One, are you
And
excited? Do you like the Castlevania games?
I've never played them, and I should.
Yeah, because they're one half of
Yeah,
of.
they're one half of my favorite genre. I know.
And did you see? Did you see that? I mean, probably not because this has only been a day. But somebody said like there's something that fills them with like a sense of dread with like Nintendo.
Metroid Dread.
No, but nice. Nintendo like posted like replay the classic Metroidvania Castlevania and with like this series, and the person was like, it fills me with a sense of dread that they call it a Metroidvania because, and then somebody was like, why? It's the genre, and then they were like, but it's Castlevania. And so I'm curious, where do you net out on that? Like, should Metroid be called a Metroidvania, and should Castlevania be called a Metroidvania? Or are those
Oh
the
my
two
god.
instances that should not be called those things?
I don't know.
And is it very pedantic to get worried about these things?
I don't know. Is Rogue a roguelike?
Yeah, okay, that is the question we're posing.
Because in that instance, it's not a roguelike. It is Rogue.
Right.
It just rogues. Um man, I literally feel so uncomfortable right now. Like I need to like punch something. I don't know, but my brain hurts so bad.
I get,
Because like
yeah.
my first instinct is no. But like if you're putting it in it's got to fall into a genre.
Yeah,
And it would be a little silly if it weren't in the genre that is its namesake.
yeah. Or that it provides its
What
name.
pisses me off is Nintendo saying it's a Metroidvania.
Oh, what? Why?
Because Metroid is your game.
Y- huh?
Hmm?
What?
Didn't you say that Nintendo called Castlevania a Metroidvania game?
Yeah.
Yeah, that annoys me a little.
For why? I'm so
Like,
confused.
why do you need to qualify that? Especially with like one of your IPs.
Because it's the genre, I think, is the point that people
Is
are
it an
trying to make.
official genre?
Um, I don't know. I guess technically probably not, right?
I don't know.
Because I guess these games would probably just typically fall into the massive bucket that is action adventure.
Yeah.
Like if the Game Awards comes around, right, and we're going through the kind of not that that's the end all be all, right, but like if they're going to give out awards for the genre specifics,
Yeah, they
I
don't do
don't
best Metroidvania.
exactly, they do not.
Be a lot cooler if they did.
It would be a lot cooler if they did.
So maybe we table this for our JRPG episode that we've
Oh
been talking about for
Jesus!
3 years.
All right, first off, it's only been like maybe 8 months.
Really?
And secondly, God, that's going to be such a bloated episode because now we're saying we have to talk about the difference between a JRPG, RPG, and just action adventure games because they all
Maybe it needs to be a series.
they get so conflated. And then now you're saying we got to also break down Metroidvanias and where they fit into the niche. And then I guess while we're at it, we should solve the mystery of is Rogue a roguelike?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And what exactly is an MMO?
am I an MMO?
Is life an MMO?
Are we just all MMO? I think the other great thing that I wanted to really talk about is um how it feels like I, sometimes I don't know where to net out in terms of like remakes and remasters and stuff like that because on one hand like they feel lazy very often and they feel like unnecessary oftentimes.
Mhm.
Not to throw, my favorite game under the bus, but like, if you want to look at a bit of a mishandling of remaster and remake and all that stuff, The Last of Us is kind of a glaring like problem in some ways. Not to say that there aren't benefits to making The Last of Us Part 1, right? And like bringing it forward to The Last of Us 2 Part 2 engine and stuff like that. Like it's great obviously, but
Are we going to do this every generation?
you could say it's a bit unnecessary, and they literally did The Last of Us, then they did the remaster, then they did Last of Us 2, then they did Last of Us Part 1, which is a remake. So it's like, all right, come on. This is all across 10 years worth of time.
Mhm.
But I will say that the other half of the argument to me is that there is a really awesome opportunity for people to get to experience games that are rather difficult to experience today. And the two great examples that were shown, which we've already talked about, which is the HD 2D remakes that are happening for the Dragon Quest games, and those were announced. That might have been the first Nintendo Direct of the summer back in June. That does kind of feel right. Or maybe even during one of the PlayStation events, they might have talked about Dragon Quest. I can't remember, but I know for a fact we saw Dragon Quest 1 and 2, which are coming out after the remakes of those are coming after the Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D remake. So that's the one, and then the other one that I'm like especially appreciative of is this Suikoden 1 and 2, because as somebody who's been like avidly collecting older games and stuff, those games are not easy to come by. So if you wanted to try and play them on the original like PS1, you're having to pay effectively as much, if not more, than what you would pay for a current gen video game. So, I mean, making these remakes, bundling them together, I'm assuming they will be, bundled together 1 and 2 for the $70 price point, but maybe they'll even be less. Who knows? It's just a great way of like offering a way for people to play some of these like cult classic experiences. It's just fantastic.
I felt that the Yakuza remake was kind of a reach in the bag. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just like, let's remake the PS2 Yakuza, put it on Switch.
The interesting thing there is that Yakuza Kiwami came out on the PS4 era. Like,
well, I mean, if you think about it, the Switch is technically that gen.
Sure, but it came out I'm saying it came out in like 2015, and now this is finally releasing on the Switch at the end of the Switch. Still great, obviously. Like every
Just
time
make it a remake of the remake.
Yakuza
of the remake.
Yakuza Kiwami Kiwami.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like you said, it's great that like anytime a game finally makes its way onto the Switch is a win, I would say, for just in general. And the Yakuza games definitely, especially like working to get, the older ones at the very least onto it is a very good move. I didn't love that was the final announcement. I was kind of like, that's a little lackluster for me.
Yeah, when it could have been Patrick Star of the game.
I also have a note about that. I was triggered because I don't know if you noticed. That game is made by Outright Games, which they are the creators of every single Paw Patrol and DC League of Super Pets. So played.
You're gonna have to play it.
Eventually, I know it'll worm its way, yes, onto my list. I literally wrote Patrick Star game and then in all caps, made by Outright Games. I'm triggered.
Just want to remind everyone, he said, not technically a bad game. Paw Patrol.
No, none of them are bad. It's just it's like I'm a sleeper agent and anytime I see Outright Games, I just go into platinum mode.
I can't wait till somebody mods this to add guns.
Right, because inevitably.
Yeah.
What else can we do?
We've reached the peak idea of humanity.
The My Sims games getting ported to the Switch. I thought that was cool. Like just a great opportunity as well to take like DS games and bring them to the Switch console.
Is that what that was?
Yeah, My Sims
3DS game?
My Sims and My Sims Kingdom were just on the original DS, and I believe they actually were both, or at the very least, Kingdom was on Wii. And to anybody listening,
both of them.
Yeah, it's like both of them in a dual pack.
Gotcha.
And to anybody listening, if you don't know what My Sims is, it's basically I would describe it as very similar to Animal Crossing. It has a bit more of like adventure aspects of with like active quests and stuff like that for you to do. Um Something where I feel like Animal Crossing. Did I say Animal Crossing?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you said Harvest Moon.
God damn it.
Same game.
Um I would disagree with that.
Yeah, but I always thought it was when I was younger.
But anyway, it's a lot like a lot like an Animal Crossing game. And I loved them when they were on the DS. So I was excited to see that. I don't know if I'll play them, but it's fun to think about.
Yeah, sure is.
Um and then I would say there was some stuff that personally I didn't really care too much about, like uh Five Nights at Freddy's. It was just kind of like
Not a fan of Five Nights at Freddy's.
I was like, does that really need to come to the Switch? It's too scary.
Do you ever watch the movie?
I did not. Has PETA from the Hunger Games though.
Sure does.
Have you seen the movie?
I have.
Good adaptation? Bad adaptation?
It's different.
Okay.
I think you would possibly like it more than the game.
Okay. So not that scary?
Not really.
Bet.
A little more disturbing. It's like scary in the set like Saw sense. It's
Oh,
just a little disturbing.
oh, dude, yeah. You know me. I love the Saw movies.
Do you?
No.
Oh.
I'm a pretty big baby when it comes to anything even remotely scary. Anyway.
I was thinking about jump scaring you, but then I decided it's probably not a good idea on a podcast.
I have to say I was filled with a sense of dread in that three
Metroid
second. There's one other thing that I wanted to talk about, that I specifically wanted to call attention to, and now I'm not finding it.
I'm gonna download the demo for Europa.
Yeah, that looks cool.
Yeah.
Cuisinier, looks like Moonlighter. That looks cool.
I don't think I realized that the Metal Slug games were technically indie games.
I didn't realize that either. Those aren't the games that. No, what's the like? What's the series of I think only 2 games that Nintendo was remaking for the Switch? I think I was confusing that with Metal Slug. That was not descriptive at all, dude. I'm so
No.
sorry. I'm so sorry. They were doing like a I don't know, but I always confuse it with Metal Slug. But I now know that that is not Metal Slug, and they are 2 different
Oh,
things.
Metal Gear. You're thinking of Metal Gear.
I was most certainly not.
Twisted Metal?
Date Everything. That was the thing I wanted to talk about. That game looks fucking hilarious.
Including existential dread.
Yeah.
Is in the description.
That was funny. It looks
You can date the game itself. That's so funny.
Yeah, it looks so ridiculous. It just looks so really just leaning into the absurdity of, what a dating sim can be, and I genuinely think that game looks very funny. Feels like it would be very very entertaining, because it's literally like, just go around to the various household items and try and romance them, I guess. And it's just the absurdity of like the lamp being mad at you for seeing you talking to the cabinet or something.
I love
And it's
lamp.
just like okay, then the other way around. Cabinet's upset with you for talking to the lamp. Um just like the
Just that
absurdity
I
of that.
love lamp, not that I couldn't hurt lamp.
Okay, all right. Just don't break lamp. Um yeah, I thought that looked really funny. Um Anything else? Anything else from the specific announcements? Because I have one other thing that I do want to talk about specific
No, let's talk about it.
to Nintendo. The big takeaway for me also from all this was that every game, um, I don't think anything had a release date later than spring of 2025. Uh, and I
Mm.
don't know if they gave a specific month in there that I could actually draw as like the definitive line that they did not go past. But so I found that interesting. But
How
that in it
inquisitive of you.
that in and of itself, right? Because we still don't have concrete information about a Switch 2 or whatever the next console is going to be in terms of release and stuff like that. But, you know, a lot of signs are pointing towards a spring release for the console, right? Like it would kind of follow a similar trajectory of the Switch, which would make a lot of sense. Um, so what I find interesting is if all of that is to be, you know, if all of that is to come to fruition, a lot of these games releasing kind of right along that line would lead me to believe, which this may not be a bold assumption at all, but it would lead me to believe that there is going to be a lot of like cross-gen games, like games that are like, or I guess backwards compatibility, right? Like
Mhm.
whatever the next console is likely going to be able to play Switch games. Um, which I think is a win. But I don't think we can say that for certain. But that was something that I kind of started to take away from it. I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, and I kind of assumed that too with how many like large scale games they announced at the last like Nintendo first party show.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know, like um new Mario and Luigi, like is that I'm assuming like that's gonna be like a cross play game. Um New Princess Peach game already came out, right? Like back in March or something.
Mm-hmm.
The new Legend of Link game.
Which, if I remember correctly, it didn't say coming to Switch. It
Mm,
didn't say anything. It just said releasing and then gave a rough window, if I remember correctly, because that was one thing that I
yeah.
was very aware of.
So, I mean, yeah, overall, like I think there is going to be a lot of crossover and they've kind of already come out and said that, right? Like pretty much it's just hardware iterative, like it's not a full like redo of the system. It's
Mm-hmm.
just catching up the hardware, which is perfect.
Which is, yeah, really all that needs to happen.
Yeah, for the rest of Nintendo's existence.
Seriously. They have it down. They have the winning recipe. Yeah, so I thought that was interesting. And I just think like again, we've talked about it now for the past probably 3, 4, 5 Nintendo events as we've been starting to ramp up for the inevitable um predecessor. Um it's just amazing the lineup that they've been able to like sneak in yet at the end of the Switch's life cycle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this has to go down as one of the best handlings of a console and lifespan.
What the Wii U should have been.
What the Wii U could have been, right? Yeah, it's it's like wild, right? Like I feel like so often Nintendo kind of gets this rap because they aren't involved in this whole console warring that goes on between PlayStation and Xbox. So those two are constantly seen as synonymous with each other, right? Like um you can't have PlayStation without also talking about Xbox so often. But the past 2 years, probably, Nintendo has really proven that they're the ones who are actually like, air quotes winning, this whole, uh, gaming thing.
Yeah.
They really have been doing such a great job. They've handled their nostalgia factor like damn near perfectly, right? Like it's a it's a shame that it's almost too easy for them to do. Yet I don't feel like they abuse it enough. Like
Right.
people like they get people constantly just like screaming and crying for like the next Metroid Prime, and they just keep
Watch
withholding it
yourself.
and keep withholding it, and then they finally give it to you, right? And like they know how to just take it all the way to the edge before finally like giving in and finally giving the thing. And it's always done at what feels like the perfect time. So, and yes, I'm sorry, I had to use a game like Metroid to really get you to feel.
Let's get the point across.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I feel like they've really just been like they've been doing everything that they need to do when it comes to, these announcements and with these events and stuff like that, and just really taking care of the console and taking care of, the players and their base specifically. The addition of these, Nintendo console online and the SNES, and then they're now adding Game Boy games and stuff like that. It's just like it's again, it's almost too easy for them, and they just knock it out of the park. Um, I really love everything they've been doing, and I'm super excited to see what they do next.
You know what's funny? We've Justine and I have kind of talked about it, and of course she's a little biased, but like I think I've gotten to the point where if I had to pick one console, it would probably be Nintendo.
And yeah, I think that's completely fair.
I think that's just the point in life that we've gotten to where like gaming is just so much more casual now.
Sure.
So that's like the perfect console. And now they're still bringing like some of the heavier hitting games to it. So I don't know. Good for Nintendo. Went from not playing them for like 10 years to
To
them
suddenly
being the
they
best.
yeah, suddenly they feel like the perfect puzzle piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I could personally say that. Maybe if they had some sort of achievement or trophy system. But even then, I just don't think I would lose all my fake points that don't matter.
Yeah, sure.
So I don't know if I could do
Yeah, that's a hard pill to swallow.
that. But yeah, no, I think if somebody today was like, I want to get into gaming, what should I get? It's kind of like, well, probably a Switch.
Yeah.
I mean, now it's like that's now a hard thing to say because it's like literally we're probably months away from whatever's coming next. But like Nintendo's console is probably the thing to push somebody towards as the like jumping off point, because you get all of the classics, like you get all of the classic franchises that are still going on today with like new iterations. So like think about a game like Super Mario Wonder. And yeah, it's like it really is kind of that like perfect console. And we saw it during the pandemic, right? When like nobody could like do anything. And so what did people do? They got Switches. They got Switches so they could play Doom. And nothing else came out on that day. And people had a field day, and people were gaming and were like having a sense of feeling together and everything like that. Like it filled that void. Something that yes, like a PlayStation can do and an Xbox can do. But there's a very specific reason. There's something about Nintendo that drew people to them specifically. They really do have the winning recipe, and it's I like looking back now. It's like it's crazy the blip in the timeline that the Wii U is.
An important blip.
Yeah, I mean,
Probably the most important blip. We've never seen a blip so important ever.
and to see
Biggest blip.
and to see a blip. Say blip one more time. I swear to God.
Sounds like you're about to blip out on me.
And it's just crazy that they were able to bounce back from a terrible blip such as that, and
Yeah.
and position themselves as they have. I don't know. I love it. I simply love it.
Yep. Modern day story of the Phoenix.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Anything else that you want to say? Anything you want to give Nintendo their flowers for?
Nope, just blip.
All right. Just blip. All right, that'll do it then for this episode. Next week is the season finale of GGBG. And there's something very exciting in waiting in the wings for season 5. So look forward to that surprise. Who knows what we'll be talking about next week. But no matter what, I'm excited. I hope it's something Nintendo related. Other than that, thank you all so much for listening. If you could do us a favor and leave us a rating or review wherever you listen to the podcast, that'd be greatly appreciated. And most importantly, if you could share the podcast with a friend, that would be a huge help. Other than that, we will talk to you next week.